Hi, this is Maurice LaMarche, and that name will mean nothing to you nor the sound of my voice, unless I become the brain from TV's Pinky and the Brain, or Calculon, the star of all my circuits from Futurama. Oh, he is a bottle, so from Futurama.
Puny human, this is Morbo the newscaster. On tonight's news, you're listening to Still Toking with on the Darkening Podcast Network. I will destroy you.
Now I'm proving that this battle I am never losing. I'm choosing to ignore the cuts and bumps and bruises.
Oh, look at that. I left the button up. So, welcome to another kick-ass episode of Still Toking with. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but hey, when you're a rock star like our guest is tonight, you can be late. It's okay. We don't mind.
Hey, I think the technical difficulties you have to take control of there, kid.
I was on the phone taking control.
I know you were.
But he figured it out without me, so.
See?
But it's all good. It's all good, man. We got a killer show tonight. Not only do we have an amazing guest, but we have a past guest with a similar story coming back as a special co-host. So I'm going to bring him up on the stage real quick. My man, Tim McBride, a.k.a. the Saltwater Cowboy. How you doing,
hey,
brother?
Everybody. Hey, man. Thanks for having me back.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. I mean, when I saw this gentleman's story, I said, I got to reach out to Tim because, like, Jeff and I won't have to say a fucking word tonight. The two of them are just going to go on and on and on about, these amazing things. But we wasted some time getting on here, so I'm going to bring up Jeffrey.
Hey, happy Wednesday. Pre-Thanksgiving Day.
Happy day before.
Happy day before Turkey Day? Yeah, something like that. Maybe. I don't know. But it's Wednesday. I've been looking forward to this. I watched the documentary today. Amazing. I was confused. There's a lot going on. So I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean? We didn't get a chance backstage. I want to pronounce his name correctly. So, George, if I get it wrong, you can kick me in the balls. I don't care. George Martorano, is that correct?
Yeah, 3 syllables. Martorano, yes.
Martorano, okay.
So
and obviously Italian. That's obviously
Yes.
Italian. I'm married to a full-blooded Italian, so I understand the Italian stuff. That's why I don't get it too often.
So, welcome to the show, George.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Well, with a story like yours, go ahead.
Just want to inject the technical stuff I'm not good with because, I went to jail before cell phones were invented. I held my first cell phone in 2015.
Right.
So, I'm not good with this tech stuff. I know I do an awful lot of filming, believe me when I tell you. But, that's what it is.
Didn't you go to jail before the internet?
No. But we didn't have access to it.
But I did.
Right.
So, just real quick for our viewers that are viewing now and our listeners later, George has got one hell of a story here. Before we dive into the story, I do have the trailer for your newest documentary, Life Without Parole. So I'd like to just bring that up, play that real quick to kind of give everybody a sense of what your story really is all about. Is that
sure? Go ahead, shoot it.
All right. So this is only about 1.5 minutes long, folks, but this is George's documentary, Life Without Parole.
I'm George Martorano, and I'm out in the free world after being in a cage for a very, very, very long time. I said 3 verries. That means each very was a decade. That's 3 decades, over 30 years. First progress report I ever received in solitary, my release date said released upon death.
Nicodemus Starfel comes into play in 1981 and really changes the face of organized crime in Philadelphia.
Everybody wanted to thump their chest and say, I'm the toughest guy on crime. End of story. When they come in and arrest you, and if it was government arrested, they get a notch on their belt. Even the prosecutor, the U.S. attorney. This is all career driven.
You know, George's father was apparently allegedly involved with the mob. That spilled over into his case. That should never have spilled over into this case.
To go in front of Judge Hannum on an open plea with no agreement, you had to be out of your mind.
That was all coordinated in the back room between the prosecutor, my lawyer who sold me out, the judge, Washington. They devised this big plan that the only one that could bring down the Philly mob was me, and they had to break me.
So, wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
Intriguing.
I watched that whole documentary today, George, and there was so much going on in that film. You know, the history, your dad, and everything that was involved in that. It was mind-boggling, to the point where I've got to go watch it again so that I can put some pieces together.
Right?
Yeah, I have, incidentally, I have one on Amazon Prime that was just released called George Martorano. These Ain't No Fairy Tales. It's doing very well. And I got another one, Netflix coming out 2025 in April. But this show, the ones you guys are saying, Life No Parole, the George Martorano story, I think it's one of the best documentaries that I have done. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I had the chance to watch it today, and when I spoke to you and Jill, I believe the producer, earlier today, I mean, I was blown away because I watch a lot of documentaries, and I could not turn away from this one.
They did a very good job. They're very professional. You know, they're affiliated with Villanova College. They do an awful lot in our area, and they're growing. They're growing as filmmakers. So I'll work with them. I'll be happy to work with them again and again.
Right. And just for our viewers and listeners, if you're interested in anything that we talk about tonight, from what George just mentioned, you know, the fairy tales, it's all in the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. So make sure you go check out his stuff, because, I mean, we're only going to touch the tip of the iceberg in an hour interview.
Right.
I'm around. We can do it again. You
can do it again.
I heard you're good people, so I'm around. We can do it again.
Oh, see, somebody spreading rumors again.
Yeah, who was that one person that saw him?
I think it was you, Tim. I think it was you.
Oh yeah, okay. You know, but George, I gotta wholly agree with you, man. These guys are awesome. I've done their show before. We were at a live event together just not too long ago, and they had great fun. You know, it just, you know, telling those stories, and they're quite right. You know, I mean, myself as well. You and I are on a bit of opposite genres here, you know, somewhat, but still going down that same lane about, you know, your life is in, you know, total hands of, you know, out of your own hands when you become a number and not a name any longer. And only having an hour to try to compress a lifetime of shit, it's hard to do.
Right.
I can totally empathize, you know, with that. But I'm curious as to how your beginnings, you know, your early beginnings, you know, was it family dysfunction, or what was going on in your life that made you kind of go down that lane, man?
No, the street I was raised in was nicknamed Gunman's Row. It's had a lot of coffee houses where these gangsters hung out, and the people in the business world, when they had money owed, they wanted to get a guy clipped, they used to go to Gunman's Row. That's the street I was lived on. At an early age, I experienced it. I was 2 years old when a guy named Benny the Gimp, he was a tough gangster. He used to carry 2 long barrel 38s, and he used to come and get me from my mother at 2 years old. My mother used to shake handing me to him, and he used to take me to one of these stores on the Gunman's Row, an ice cream store, and he used to like to get me this big lump of chocolate ice cream. And 2 years old, I get it all over me, you know, and he'd laugh and laugh. until one day he did this, and I was with him, and a car jumped the pavement. It was a driver and two shooters. Two shooters jumped out the back, and they killed him. They killed him,
man.
Within a few feet from me. And actually, my mother heard the gunshots, and she ran out of the house and retrieved me out of the stroller. And then the homicide detective wanted to know who's the child attached to the shoulder. They wanted his parents have to know something. So I was 2 years old. They had hid me in one grandmother's house around the corner, but the investigation intensified. So they moved me from Philadelphia all the way to Wildwood, New Jersey, 90 miles away. So I'm 2 years old on the lam.
Wow.
That's how early I go back with the streets.
I wasn't even old enough to eat mud pies at that point.
Yeah. So.
Well, that does go back a stretch,
right?
I would say a little, right?
Yeah.
Right. But when was it? At what time did it occur when you finally became fully engaged as an individual within that, clique of guys?
I never. Back in the old days, if you really lived the life, once you had a made member in your family. My father was a made guy. He was known as a criminal's criminal anyway. You didn't need it to be in the mob. You didn't need to have an uncle or brother. If you had one guy in good standing, that was enough. That was accepted back then. So I had the opportunity to be a mob member. I had the opportunity. Matter of fact, I turned it down twice, but you don't turn it down. You usually get killed if you turned it down. But I had a lot of respect. My godfather was the boss, Angelo Bruno. And but if I had you did time, if my PSI said that I was a made member of the mob, I'd die in jail. So I was one of the smartest things I ever did. Right.
It was sort of a good fella thing going on there, where they were kind of hoping that one of the guys would get made. It was like them all getting made, kind of thing. So that was the real deal then, huh?
Well, I was raised in it, and when you're raised in it, I used to try to get away. I wanted to go with girls, go on vacation, go to Florida. So, and other guys that weren't raised, you want to come and hang around. To me, that wasn't. It didn't make no sense to me. So I get away. Yeah.
Right. Well, I can, in a lot of ways, empathize with the way that was brought about, or it came about in your life, because I didn't aspire to become what I became. One of the biggest pot smugglers in American history. I didn't aspire to that. I just kind of Forrest Gumped my fucking way through it, man. I just tripped and fell. And, as opportunity presents itself, and I've always found a saying that I'm not that fucking guy in the back of the crowd standing on my toes trying to see what the fuck's going on. I'm elbowing my way to the front, because if there's some shit going on, man, I want some of that. Well, that was me. So, I'm not going to fucking wait around for the shit. So that's how I wound up stepping up, because, if nobody else is going to step up, then, hey, I'm there. I'm your guy.
Well, thank God you're home, and thank God we're home and talking about it. Yeah, incidentally, I did 32 plus years nonviolent first offender.
And I heard
conspiracy. I never got caught with a joint. Now today, I got the biggest brand in Jersey. It's called the Grow Father. The Godfather. I'm the Grow Father. I have the biggest.
Right, yeah.
I'm just contracted into New Mexico, Illinois, and that's why I'm here in Nevada. So I did 32 years for conspiracy to weed. Now I'm in the industry. And what I'm most happy about it, I'm creating jobs for young people. That's their life. It's their life, these bud tenders and these people that are in the grow industry. So I'm proud of that.
Right. And I am too, to tell you the truth. The industry coming and the total irony. I mean, I get it, man. When I was given 160 years mandatory to life and $16 million in fines, my ass went like that, and it was over for me. And things being what they were, circumstances and and sequence of events turning out the way they did. Had they not turned out in that particular sequence of events, you and I and all of us wouldn't be having this conversation, because I'd still be an FCI in Tallahassee right now. But what it amounts to really is, the irony is that having gone through all of that, and now I got a card in my pocket says I can go right half mile down the street and buy this shit.
Yeah, well,
But
yeah.
what's important, I think, though, is for a lot of these new Gen X, Y, and Z, whatever the fuck you want to call them, to understand that, back when we were growing up, back in our days when, we were running our shit, if you wanted to smoke weed, dude, you literally had to take a boat, go to another fucking country and load that goddamn thing as full as you could get it and bring it back. That's the only way you were getting your shit.
I started smuggling with Pablo Escobar and Giselda Blanco. We called her Zelda. They were in the weed business before they were in the coke business. I was very close with them. I didn't get involved with coke. And,
but she's the one that pulled Pablo and Carlos out of the gangs to help them figure out how to gather the coca paste and be their conduit.
She made all the money. She made all the money.
Yeah.
Basically, I said I knew her very well. She
and what she did to Miami is what brought their shit down on us.
Yeah,
everybody in Miami wanting to be the guy, man. But she was killing them like ordering pizza.
Oh, forget about it. She wanted to marry me. She killed 3 of her husbands, and she killed her fiancés. And Pablo offered me 1,000 keys to marry her.
Oh,
said,
God.
Pablo, let me ask you a question. Let's go. What happened to the first husband? Oh, I don't know. Crazy business. All right, let's skip ahead. What happened to the 5th husband? Oh, I don't know. Crazy business. You want me to marry her? I was close with them, but I got away from them when they went into coke.
Right.
Yeah. I never growing up in those years, in the history that I'm from goes back to the early 60s, and like that. We were all family and generational as we grew up. I'm what was described as 3rd generation pot smuggler. And, my friends and uncles and fathers and their older cousins learned from their grandpas and everybody the generation before them. So this is 3 generations in nearly 40 years.
What state were you growing in? What states?
We were we weren't growing it. I was buying it from this guy that I'll only name as the boss. He had the control of the grows between Cartagena and Santa Marta, which included Banquilla.
Oh, you're talking about Raymond the Boss. He was the boss.
Nah.
Raymond the Boss.
So I'm actually kind of surprised that you guys.
But I bought millions
because George, you were in North Miami, correct?
Yeah, I operated out of Miami. Yeah,
right. And you were in the Everglades running it to Miami.
Well, no, we were bringing it into Everglades.
The Everglades, we smuggled out of the cane fields, and I smuggled so many goddamn ways,
Yeah.
The boats got wiped out. You couldn't use the boats anymore, so they had to use planes, and you had to use smaller loads. And we used to bring them into the sugarcane fields over in what was that town? Clewiston.
Just south of Clewiston, yeah.
They used to fly them into the sugarcane fields, and it was crazy days,
Right.
You got to come over that water. As you know, you're only about 20 feet above the water, and you've got a load, and you got that plane full throttle. And
that's
dangerous.
There's a story in my book about a guy hired me to, unload his ship, but he was flying it in DC-3. Now the max load on the DC-3 is only 6,000 pounds.
Right.
They had Santa Marta, Punta Rojas shit in there, which was, if I'm buying it for $10 a pound in the lowlands, the Colombian red and the gold, but in the highlands where the shit was a little bit more potent, you're paying between 40 and 60. So you make up in dollars and cents what you lack in the amount of loads. So DC-3 is only 6,000 pounds. And these guys, like you said, you could literally in those days fly, you've heard the phrase, fly under the radar. Well, The way the radar was designed, you could literally drop down and fly underneath the fucking radar. And these guys are like George was saying, this fucking thing was hammered. You could see them. I mean, it was roaring black smoke coming like 100 feet above the fucking palmettos and the trees.
Yeah.
They dip down over the water a little bit, and then they just start shucking them out the fucking door, 20 at a time, big giant piles of them. But to get any significant amounts, I mean, we were moving 40, 50. I've seen boats with over 400,000 pounds at a time on them back in the days when it was possible to do such a thing.
Oh, you had Randy. I don't know if you heard Randy Lanier. And,
oh, yeah. I've talked to Randy dozens of times. Yeah.
They were bringing in barges. Christ almighty. 5.
We were bringing in, we bought
50,000 ton barges.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank God we're here to talk about it. A lot of guys that aren't.
Right. No, that's right. You know what? And, we moved a lot of stuff, we got a credit for, moving a lot of material, but, I've never once would I ever say that we were the only potholers out there. That's just be an insult to potholers everywhere, man, because no matter who you were, whether you made it or didn't make it, God fucking bless your ass, man.
Well, I want to thank both of you guys, because back in the day, I never would have had the opportunity to fucking smoke any brickweed.
It wasn't called brickweed until they took us out of the picture and the Mexicans took over. That's when it started becoming brickweed, because their shit was,
right.
You were getting Caribbean marijuana in the days, but in the 60s and the 70s and the early 80s, man, and all through the 80s, it was either Jamaican, it was South American, or Central American. You had maybe, 4 strains. 3 television stations and 4 strains of fucking weed. That kind of
George
thing. We just lost George. You there, George? Bummer. Yeah, but it's very interesting to see the contrast, between our dynamic. This is very cool.
Well, what's funny is, you're familiar and you know the same people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Here we go.
Well, I think you got a phone call.
Oh, maybe. That'll do it.
Yep, that'll do it every time.
That's why you have to set it on do not disturb.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, maybe it's somebody's calling about that crack he made a little while ago. I'll never tell that. I'll never say any names. That's always been a rule of mine.
Right.
I'll say Carlito and Leo because that's the 2 guys that I dealt with in Miami. But that's all you'll get out of me out of that. But a little researching, in newspapers and things like that will give you their names. But there was always an understanding between us when it came to cocaine and marijuana. I'll take, whatever comes by way of the pot and the marijuana, I'll go down with that shit. But if anything comes up with cocaine and shit like that, that's all on you guys, And they were we all stuck to our word. I went down for the weed and they went down for their, because they were 2 soldiers of the woman we were speaking of, Griselda. Right. They were 2 soldiers of Griselda Blanco, and I had no idea. Even at that time, when you're living those days, you're experiencing those days, you don't see it in retrospective. You don't see it retrospectively. You see it, it's a whole different thing when you're viewing it from that point of view, looking back.
Yeah.
When you're living it and you're right there at the time and all the murders happening, and it becomes the deadliest place on the planet to be, barring any other conflict on the earth. Miami was the most dangerous place to be, but you're living in those days, but you're not feeling that. You're not hearing that until later on when history describes this as such. That's why people ask me, and I'm sure George is going to, people will ask George the same thing. Weren't you afraid? Weren't you scared? Well, fuck no. What was there to be afraid of? Everybody was our friend. Everybody was our pal. Everybody was the guy, But, in George's world, I'm sure there's a little bit more to it than that. Your best friend is probably the one that's going to help put the gun to the back of your head, or some shit like that.
Right. Well, I think one of the biggest differences between you 2 is the fact of who his dad was.
Yes. And just the nature of the business itself, the sophistication in which they were dealing with was a whole lot different than the sophistication we were dealing with.
Hello.
We were more into,
and he's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Somebody
Did you get a
tried to
phone
give you-
call?
yeah, somebody tried to call you.
Yeah, that screwed it all up.
Yeah, it does.
Fucking pizza. 30 minutes stuck.
So something that really that got my attention during the documentary was that, you know, you had hidden pockets in your clothes that you would
Oh,
carry
yeah.
3 1-carat diamonds.
It saved my life. You know, I was, you know, out of the country. I don't care who you are. You know, you could one day be on top of the world and the next day be dead. You know, out of
Right.
the country, no joke. Especially, I was in Colombia. I was with Raymond. He called him the boss. He was out of Cartagena, and I went down there to get some weed. And he said, "Forget it." He said, "There's nothing happened." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "They didn't pay the Indians. You know, Indians grow the weed up in the Santa Marta region. It's their hills about 80 miles outside of Barranquilla." And he said they sent a guy with no shoes on with a machete. They found somebody attached to the guys that didn't pay them, and he cut his head off and sat on the curb. And that's the Indians. So, well, I said, I didn't come down here for nothing. I'm going up there. He said, "George, you go up there, you might not come back." So I said, "Give me a driver." And I knew the chief. He was the chief. His name was Sam. Anyway, I told the kid, I says, "Listen, no gun. Don't make sure no guns," because that was the time. That was the era when FAR, you know, the guerrilla movement, FAR was pretty big. You know, they were trying to overtake the government. So they had these military checkpoints, and you don't want to have a gun. Well, this idiot kid didn't listen. We get stopped at a military checkpoint, and he's got a machine pistol under the seat. You know, it looks like a handgun, but it's a machine gun. It's got a long clip.
Right.
I said, "Oh my God!" So now they rough us up. They take us to a military compound, and they throw us in these cells. These cells are actually slanted on like a little hill. The reason they were slanted because they run water through the cells, and there's nothing in the cell but straw. And the back of the cell is a trough, and that's where you drink, you relieve yourself, and wash. But if you drink that water, you're probably going to die in about 6 months. Anyway, anybody that travels out of the country, you drink. The only thing you do is bread and coffee. Don't eat nothing, and don't drink nothing. Bread and coffee.
Right.
Anyway, so the one captain, he says, "Yeah, we're going to execute you. You better tell us this and that." I don't know. And I don't know what the Spanish kid was saying. So I used to have my clothes made with secret pockets, and I used to keep 3 1-carat diamonds. They weren't flawless diamonds, but they were good. And in the middle of the night, you know, I tore a little pocket, maybe a quarter of an inch. And I took out a diamond, and I called the guard. You know, it's like 2 a.m, and I say, telephone. And I showed him the diamond. But I was smart enough before I left Barranquilla. I told Raymond, I need a phone number, and I need a guy by the phone. He has to stay by that phone until I come back. Raymond, me and him were close. And sure enough, thank God, when I made the call, picked up, guy spoke broken English. I said, "You told him where I was at." I forget the little town where the military compound was. And I told him, "Make sure you tell Raymond he has to be tomorrow morning, early, 20,000 US. Make sure it's US. They're going to execute me." So anyway, long story short, money hits the next morning, and the captain that was going to execute me, I'm in his office, we're drinking cognac, and he said, "You and me now, don't worry, I bring you the weed. I bring you the weed to Barranquilla." But they were going to kill me. If I didn't have that diamond, I might not be doing this conversation.
What year are we talking about, George?
Oh, Christ. Oh, Christ. I say late 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s, yeah. You know, weed back then, it didn't come like it came down. It came in burlap bags.
No, dude, it was some mess.
Yeah, it came at like 90 to 130 pound burlap bags, you know.
Yeah, well, they were all different fucking sizes. We called them pillow bales because there was no organization, there was no compaction, and none of that was all before that shit happened.
Yeah.
And they were a mess, dude. I mean, we would bring that shit in, and you know, smaller boats would take it from us and run through the islands with it. We would spend 2 or 3 hours offshore cleaning the goddamn deck, sweeping into the piles and shoveling the fucking shit off the deck. I mean, it was
Oh,
some
yeah.
fucking mess, man.
Yeah, I mean, the money was good.
Yeah.
The risks were high. The money was good.
So you're
Like I
buying
said,
for
I was
10
raised
bucks a pound.
Yeah, I was raised in a mob, and I always worked. We controlled all the vending in Philadelphia, 30-mile radius. We controlled all the vending from Atlantic City to Cape May. I mean, we were in the business for 30 years, but I worked all my life. And then when my godfather got killed, Angelo Bruno, some older guys approached me. They had a big weed operation out of Miami. They made a ton of money, but they were getting old. They needed a young guy that was raised right. They figured I ain't going to rat on them, which I never did. And that's how I got in it.
You don't happen to know who they were working in Miami with, do you?
Oh, Christ almighty. I forget the guy's name. There
Wasn't Robert Flatchhorn, was it?
No, I know. He just died, Bob.
Yeah, he died a few years ago.
No,
yeah.
that was Big Tuna operation. They were.
Yeah, Big Tuna gone,
I forget
man.
the guy's name. And I had lunch with him in Philadelphia. These two gentlemen, they're dead. They're Tang guys. And they said, "You in?" I says, they gave me $50,000 gift. And I says, "I'm in." The next day we flew down to Florida with a Learjet, and that's how I took over the operation.
Right.
And they had the machine all set up. They just needed a guy that they could trust that they weren't going to get robbed.
Right.
And that's how it went.
So I know Jeff has at least one question brewing in that brain of his.
Well, I want to talk about, and not to change the subject, it's really the same subject, but I want to talk about your writing.
Excuse me?
Your writing.
I'm the most prolific writer in the world. I wrote 2 million words freehand, and that's on archives. I have it documented in archives. We call it works. As a writer, we call it works. I wrote scripts. I wrote stage plays, movie scripts, short stories, abundance of short stories. I taught creative writing. I was a mentor educator. One of the deciding factors upon my release, I graduated over 8,000 inmate students in my classrooms. I was the only federal prisoner that Washington let me create my own curriculum. When you graduate any class, you have to get
which FCI were you in, George?
Well, I started all the worst places. I started Marion, Illinois, which was the worst, 370 worst prisoners in America.
I was sent there I was there for 4 weeks. I was originally given some diesel therapy for 9 months. So
you went there for 4 weeks. They put you on the honor block.
I was in the hole.
They put you in the hole, the honor block.
They put me straight to the hole.
Once you're in that program, you ain't coming out. Once you're in that program, you ain't coming out. You have.
I was 11 months. I was 11 months before I finally made it to Tallahassee. They took me fucking everywhere, dude.
You're lucky, man. You're lucky. You're lucky. Well, the Lord looks out for you in mysterious ways. I went to the worst prison known to man, nonviolent first offender. I had more time. It was 370 the worst prisoners.
That's ridiculous.
I had more time than the whole 300. I had life, no parole. There was guys doing life.
Right. Oh, no. Come on, man. Oh, shit.
Somebody called George again.
Wow. So to continue on that, from what I read, he wrote numerous books. Okay. 30 something books.
Right. Yep. And that really, to me, or somebody in my position, or anybody that's ever done any time in a federal institution or whatever like that, really comes to no surprise, because you'd be surprised how many guys write, or aspiring to write or whatever like that, whether they get published or whether they don't. I mean, I wrote about a bank robber that ran the illegal library that I wound up working in while I was in FCI in Tallahassee. When I finally wound up there, he was a published author while he was in prison, and he taught a class in the prison for fictional writing, and I took his class. It was Dennis Lehman, he was a bank robber. He had been there for 32 years when I first met him for fucking bank robbery.
Right.
So I totally get where George is going with that, man, but, being that prolific, I mean, that's special,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I can write. You guys can write, it's the screenwriters. It's the people that can adapt a book to a play, to a screenplay. That's the kind of writing that I envy. I'm not that kind of writer,
Right.
To describe I guess not having any, I guess hands-on, practice in it or actually, doing it firsthand kind of thing. But I've read a lot of screenplays and just the way they're written, their descriptions help draw you in and help you feel it. And, and this is what I got out of Dennis Lehman, the bank robber in prison, was because it was fictional writing, and what I wrote wasn't fiction. It was nonfiction, nevertheless. But he helped me understand how to incorporate the olfactory senses, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the wind against your face, the humidity in the air, and just help a person feel like they're right there with you. Giving you that sense and that feeling of being in that place. That's special. And this guy right here, I mean, that's a special guy right there, to tell you the truth.
Oh,
to put up what he put up with and to be as prolific as he is in writing and it's no wonder people are stepping up and showing this, telling his story. His story deserves to be told.
To be a model, a model.
He came out a good guy, man. He helped a lot of people. He did. Not everybody is a fucking criminal, quote unquote. Right. I don't like that word being used when somebody describes me. I'm not a fucking criminal. I never was. Right. I was an outlaw because I didn't necessarily agree with your fucking law. So I worked outside your law. Call it what you will, potato. I don't give a shit. But when you say it, the connotation has a whole different meaning when it comes out of somebody's mouth. Criminal and outlaw, two different fucking things, man.
Right.
And I wish, come on, George, man, get your shit together here. Some questions I really wanted to ask the guy, not so much on a parallel, with our universe, but more toward his, his particular game that he was playing. There's a lot of stuff that, unless you see the documentaries that we're telling everybody about, or unless you read the book or have read a book, something like that, you're just not getting it, man.
Right. I mean, in all seriousness, he was the longest serving first-time non-violent offender.
Yeah. Can you fucking believe
it? He got life without parole for drug charges.
Weed.
Right. And that was at a time before the mandatory minimums were put in place.
Right. I
was sentenced under the old law. I wasn't sentenced under the new mandatory minimums, which don't provide parole. But that fucking magistrate of mine found a section to sentence me under the old law that didn't provide for parole. The same thing they did with our friend here, George.
Right.
Well, George, non-parolable sentence that required me to serve the whole goddamn thing.
And everything that I was looking at, it appears to me, and I wish George was still here. It looks that he was railroaded because they wanted information about his dad. They wanted information about the mob, and they thought that George could give it to them.
Dude, if he understands what diesel therapy is, I don't know if either do you understand what diesel therapy is?
Something happens every time I get a phone call, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Hey, we were just talking about you.
I wish people stopped calling me. They know it's the holiday. Come on. Maybe they want to wish me a happy holiday.
Right.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great. Happy holiday, George.
They're all inviting you for turkey.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I got a good. You want to hear a turkey story?
Sure.
I'm at a city jail in Philly called Holmesburg. Not nice. Believe me, I tell you, not nice. And it was Thanksgiving. So when we're in line going to the chow hall, holidays, the line starts way outside the chow hall.
Right.
And I pass in this alleyway. I had an iron grate there, and I see these boxes. They're empty boxes, cardboard boxes, and they're oozing salt. I couldn't understand the language. Anyway, I go in the chow hall. And when you're in the city jails, this was a rough spot too. You don't, in regular jail, you have your own table, your own friends. In the city jail, you just go, your line goes in, you go to a seat where it comes up. And no ifs, ands, or buts. So anyway, I'm sitting with these couple black kids, and the turkey, you get the turkey, and I'm looking at this turkey. Turkey was pretty big. It was a good, I say, 12 inches long, and the meat was purple. This is the turkey leg, and the meat was purple. So I couldn't chew it. Anyway, I gave it to the kids at the table, and they were like chewing bubble gum. Make long story short, when I leave the chow hall, I had a pen in my pocket, and I wrote the name of these boxes. It was and guess what? When I had it translated, guess what the name was? Hungarian Buzzard. Hungarian Buzzard. They must have paid the whole jail for $200.
Yeah.
Big purple legs of buzzards.
No turkey for you.
That's a true story. Hungarian buzzard we were eating.
You were bounced all over the place in a multitude of different prisons. But one of the things in the documentary, folks, make sure you check the show notes because you got to watch the documentary plus his other stuff. But you actually were a cellmate with John Gotti.
Yeah, matter of fact, I did a nice show in London, the London Times, recently. About John. Yeah, I was his cellie, 85, 86, 87, 1986, 80. That's when his first indictment came down, was 86. And I was in MCC New York, maximum security floor. That's the floor that guy Epstein supposedly killed himself.
Yep.
It's called 9 South, maximum security floor. So me and John, we were in a cell together for over 2 years. And great man. You get the first year we're in 22-hour lockup. And he only went to trial 4 days a week. So when he was in a trial, we were in a cell 22 hours a day.
Wow.
And, I really love him as a person, a great man. When we first met, the night we first met, I was on the bottom bunk, and I'm younger than him, so naturally I took the top bunk. He said, "No, I'm not going to take the bottom bunk," and we shook hands. Anything said in the cell stays in the cell, and we were together over 2 years. But see, that was the case that they had the juror. Remember, they bribed the juror, and the case. The case was going on. The jury had been out for a while, and it was Friday the 13th, and the jury has been out for days yet. So John was real upset. And he's got to go to we used to get up early, take a shower. He used to like to have coffee and then a glass of juice with his vitamins. And then I used to walk him to the elevator. And he's cursing up a storm. It's Friday the 13th. They're going to find me guilty. I mean, he's in a rage. And he had this Tang guy, Tony from Sicily. He was in there on a drug case. He come to the door. We used to leave our cell door open on the cell block. That was the era of the commission trial. We had 16 cells, all the mob bosses. We had all the power in the country on that floor. But anyway, the Tang guy, Tony, says, "No, John, Friday the 13th, it's a lucky in Sicily. It's a lucky in Sicily. Not like here." John told him, "Get the F out of the cell. Get out of here." So I walk him to the elevator. Your cop opens up the cell block door. You can't go nowhere. It's just a sally port. The elevator comes up. And I walked him every morning when he had trial. And the elevator doors open up, and he grabs puts his 2 hands on my face and pulls it towards his, and he whispers in my ear, "Call me at home tonight." And he gets on the elevator, and the elevator shuts. And I'm standing there, this guy lost his mind. He just was cursing up a storm for 2 hours. And sure enough, I called him at home tonight. He knew he was going home that day.
Wow.
Right. Holy
And he
shit.
came back 2.5 years later, but he stood very close contact with my family, extremely close. And then they killed him. John liked to smoke cigars. Even when he was on the street, every year he had very sensitive gums. Every year he had to have the cosmetic surgery on his gums, of course, from the cigar smoking.
Right.
So now you're in jail. You get these cheap cigars they sell in the commissary. So he's smoking them, and his lungs got infected. He's in Marion, and they just let it fester. They let it fester, and went into cancer. And when he had the first surgery in Springfield, Illinois, federal medical facility, his family went to see him. They couldn't see him in the prison, but they went into the hospital and they talked to the doctor. And the head doctor says, if this man was here 2 months ago, this could have been prevented. So they killed him.
Wow.
Well, yeah, because you're not seeing a doctor in prison. You're talking to a fucking physician assistant that doesn't know what the
licensed. They're not like any doctor works in a federal system is not like they lost their license. But when they come on federal property, they can practice.
Right.
But see, John wasn't allergic to. He couldn't take painkiller. He couldn't take antibiotic. The only thing they could give him was steroid, and it all added to the medical problem. And he died.
Right.
Terrible. He died terrible. Locked down, extremely locked down.
That's terrible.
So I know when George got his last phone call, Jeff, you said that you wanted to ask him a couple things. So I'm going to let you jump in here.
Yeah, and then I started a conversation with Tim.
That's your
what
fault.
I wanted to say was, I did a lot of research. I watched the documentary, and this whole case wasn't about you. It was about your dad, in my opinion.
Absolutely. All they wanted me to rap. You got to remember, Philadelphia we had 3 back-to-back mob wars. There was over 80 guys killed from Philadelphia to Newark. No arrest. So I fall on a weed case, and my prosecutor, the dog that he was, he goes to Washington, Senate subcommittee or congressional subcommittee, I forget what it was, and said, I will bring down the Scarfo mob, Nicky Scarfo mob, through George Martorano's indictment. Well, when the indictment came down, it was a bunch of us guys. Nobody had a record. There was not one mob guy. So he got a lot of egg on his face. His career stalled. And I wind up with life, no parole, because they were working with the judge. And the only shot they had, that's the most severe punishment you can give an individual, life, no parole. And they didn't stop torturing me, pressuring me, shipped me 5 years in solitary. You know what 5 years in solitary is? And and the wardens used to come back in the home and say, Martorano, I don't have you back here. It's that prosecutor's office in Philly. And as you know, if you've been in a hole, sounds are very important.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds are very important. Keys, what's going on, voices. The warden used to make his rounds every week, and he would come, and I would hear him coming. I know he's going to look at my cell. And I jump down on the floor and I go 1002, 1003, 1004. And he'd be looking at me, Martorano, wow. I said, yeah. I said, you know that prosecutor? I says, tell him to bring it. Now you jump back down. I say, what, 1006.
Getting thick, boss.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted your questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
No.
I mean, the whole case was just a clusterfuck. I mean, even the judge never should have taken that case.
He testified for my lawyer as a character witness. Never been done before in the history of America. He came into the courtroom with a judge residing where the prisoners come through in his robe and took the stand as a character witness. Never been done before in a federal courtroom. It made the papers the next day. They blasted him, which the federal judge testified.
You're indicted for marijuana, right?
Right.
How much?
The mount on the CCE, the three
Yeah.
overacts was only 2,600 pounds.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, they were stacking you up, man.
Mhm.
Well, they were getting pressured by Washington. The FBI in Washington were pressuring the FBI in Philly. You had all these murders, no arrest. And
Right.
for some reason, they decided to bring the raft down on me, and I had to ride with it. You know,
They did a similar thing to Flatchhorn.
yeah. Well, that case is still prevalent. It's been prevalent in America for many, many decades. The hardest case to beat is a frame.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's now a matter of precedent.
Listen, I did 32 appeals.
Yeah,
Right.
you did.
Right. While you were incarcerated, though, you did a lot of good. You know, one of the things I wanted to bring up is you helped prevent a hijacking.
Oh, that's funny. The handcuff key. You can Google that. Oh, what they did to me. I saved the day, and I got the worst end out of it. I knew that was happening. I was on a flight, prison, and any day over America, guys. There's 7 or 8 jets with
On air.
close to 300 prisoners every day flying in those skies. Remember that every day.
Mhm.
And
I flew the Conair skies several times.
you
Maybe a
ain't coming
dozen.
out of handcuffs. If you know that, you ain't coming out of They are expert shots. There's 2 types of marshals on a prison transport. There's the real federal marshals that have guns. There's 3 of them with guns with laser sights. Then you have the subcontractors, which is about, I say, 6. And they will kill you if you get caught anywhere near a handcuff key, holding a handcuff key. You will be killed instantly. And I knew that with these idiot Somalian pirates.
I had a black box.
Yeah.
They gave me a black box.
No, I passed the days of black box. I was years black
Okay.
box. I passed those days. Yeah, I was sleeping, When you travel, you want to stay up late, do a lot of push-ups so you can sleep on the plane, when you're headed out. And I feel something around my feet. And I'm all in the back of the plane, past it's got a little food when you prepare the food. They don't prepare any food on the plane, but I'm all the way in the back. And two buddies of mine from New York are saying, hey, they're trying to get something around your seat. And I look down. I didn't have my glasses. Now, on a prison transport, they're called speed keys. They're about 3 inches long. They have a rubber grip, and the key unlocks your handcuffs and your leg irons. They don't have time to have 2 different sets of keys when they're handcuffing 300 guys. So, and I looked. I said, oh my God, it's a handcuff key. I thought it was a pen. I says, oh my God. And then I see these big black foot. The guy slipped out of his bus shoes, and his toes are trying to grab the key. And they can't speak any English. They're 3 Somalian pirates. I found out they had life sentences. You come out of handcuffs, everybody in the back. I think there was about 12 of us all in the back. We're all getting killed. We are getting killed. And these nuts don't know that. I know that. So I said, what am I going to do? So I slid down. You got to know how to slide down off a plane seat. You just can't bend over and pick something up. You know that, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
So I get the handcuff key, and I said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If I say I got this handcuff key, I'm dead. So there was a little groove on the aisle's only 24 inches wide. And I flipped the key, and it fell right in the groove. I said, oh, my God, thank God. But they were still trying. Anyway, I told the marshal, he says, somebody dropped the key. Well, you see what they did to me. They come bum rush me. They take me to the front of the plane. They always keep 2 seats empty for unruly guys. They put me in the seat. They got this Velcro. How do you say that? Velcro.
Velcro.
And they slap it to your seat, and they wrap it around you, and they put a hood over my head. I figured, all right, I'm hit, And sure enough, the plane landed. The first name they called was Martorano. Who's waiting for me? The FBI. And I figured, what's the sense saying anything? It took me some hole in an obscure county jail in Oklahoma. Had a weird name. I figured it'll iron itself out.
El Reno?
No, this wasn't even El Reno. And my buddies gave statements, and I was in a hole for a few days, and they finally came and let me out, brought me back to the transit facility. And, once I'd be able to talk to somebody, the counselor, I said, where's my travel jacket? When you could travel, you have a thin jacket. And I said, I want it in my jacket, what I did, because I want to use it, maybe go back to court and tell my warden I saved the day. You know how long it took me to get that report? 4 years.
Wow.
4 years. Oh, well, this is the good news. I got a cannabis factory in Jersey. We have the #1 brand in Jersey. It's called the Grow Father. And I'm making gummies, handcuff key gummies. The story I just told you, it won't be that lengthy, but it'll be right on the package. The reason why I'm over here in Vegas, Mike Tyson has a gummy here that sells very, very well. He got his ear bit.
Tyson Bites.
Well, they sell gummies that looks like a piece of an ear.
Right.
And it does very well. So I took that scenario. I'm going to make a handcuff key gummy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anything that could happen to me, I'm proud of my prison record. I saved more lives than you guys got fingers and toes. I saved a lot of lives.
Right. Well, good for you, man.
Yeah. I mean,
You
right now,
survived
thank
it.
God I'm out of there. They're killing fields. The penitentiaries right now are gang infested killing fields. They're locked down 8 to 10 months a year. As soon as they let them out, they start warring and stabbing each other.
They are a night and day from 35 years ago when I was in prison. That's
Even
for sure.
some of the FCIs are very bad, gang infested.
FCIs used to be the place that you wanted to get sent to.
Some FCIs are real bad. Texas, places like that.
That's fucked up.
Florida, bad. There's some FCIs, they're all gang infested.
No. Now you started a restaurant too, didn't you? Or a cafe?
When I got out? Oh, no, the Hip Hemp Cafe. It was a CBD cafe. We had all kinds of food, drinks, coffee. That did very well. Matter of fact, I was the first. It's called the Hip Hemp Cafe. I was the first in the city of Philadelphia. Now in that area, that same 4-block area, there's 12 stores.
Wow.
So I went further. I'm licensed in Jersey as a manufacturer.
Okay, nice.
So I went further, yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
But,
I mean, that's one of the problems, I mean, like up here, they give so many licenses now that nobody can make any money.
Well, the licenses are overpriced. Right now, I just started a CBD company, and CBD, they have CBD brands. You don't need a license. You need a retail license. And they have technology now with CBD products. They'll get you more stoned than THC. Well, who wants to deal with all that red tape? Listen, any state you want to do THC licensing, whether it's grow, manufacturing, dispensary, or delivery, you're talking about $1.5 million to $2 million. Well, CBD costs you nothing.
Right.
Why do I want to be? I'm doing CBD right now in Pennsylvania. And
You're talking about getting high. Are you talking about Delta 8?
No, they went past that.
THCA.
9, they got THCA. They got all kinds of stuff now.
Right.
As long as I won't sell a bad product. I will not sell anything to harm anybody.
Right.
I won't do that.
Right. Wow. I mean, we haven't even touched this much of this story, folks. But I'm
still alive. I'm still alive. We can do it again.
Absolutely.
What are you? You're 74.
I'll be 75 next month. I feel great. Right. Yesterday I did 15 miles. I ran 15 minutes. I walked 15 minutes for 3 hours, and I cold plunge twice a day. I'm a cold plunger.
Wow, good for
You
you,
guys
man.
ever tried that?
Hold on a second. I got confused. You walked 15 minutes for 3 hours.
I walked 15 minutes, ran 15 minutes, walked 15 minutes, ran 15 minutes for 3
Oh,
hours.
for 3 hours. Okay. All right.
In Nevada, I
good for
love it.
you,
I
man.
go back in the hills. I just love it. I bring a nice joint of sativa, smoke a little sativa, and just keep going.
Nice.
Wow. I got to do more exercise. It hurts my arm just to take a pee.
I recommend cold plunging. I've been cold plunging even while in prison. Cold plunging it keeps the weight off, keeps your immune system up to par. Cold plunging.
All right. I'll remember that.
Really? Okay.
Keeps you young.
This winter, I guess my snow angels will be done naked.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I love it. I love it. I love cold.
Face down.
Face down. Yes, face down. Well, if it's face up, it's so cold there's nothing to see. So,
Jesus. So.
Yeah, well, it depends on how deep the snow is, too.
Right.
You need at least what? Couple inches?
Three's good.
I cold plunge everywhere I'm at.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
New York, Vegas, anywhere I cold plunge. Right now, my pool in Vegas, where I'm at, my pool is 40. If I could see, it's 48 degrees.
Damn.
I like it around 38.
Wow.
Jesus.
That's cold.
You don't stay long. You stay 4 or 5 minutes. That's all.
Well, I mean, realistically, folks, he is from the East Coast. He's from the Pennsylvania area, so we know he likes the cold.
Yeah, well, my pool is only 8 steps away from my front door, and it's like at, I don't know, 81.
80. I was going to say 80. Yeah.
What state you in? What state you in?
I'm in Southwest Florida.
Southwest Florida. Okay, so you're around Naples.
I'm just north of Naples and Cape Coral.
Yeah, I love the West Coast. I did my acclimation to freedom.
Where I grew up and did all my playing and smuggling and stuff was south of Naples and Everglades City, just on the edge of the Everglades National Park and the 10,000 Islands.
Yeah. Well, I know some. Who the hell was smuggling through there? I forget. Who the hell was smuggling through there back in the day?
You name it. Steve Lamb was just a little north of us. He was in Sarasota.
Yeah.
Or it was in Steenhatchee, actually.
Yeah.
But there was man in those days, the 60s, all through the 70s and the 80s, there were potholders everywhere, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Our deal was quite simply that, while everybody else was doing their shit, we had a unique a scenario in which we worked. It was very sophisticated. It became what it became over 30 years of running it, literally with impunity. And, moving 20-ton, 30-ton, 50-ton loads a night, onto the island and off day after day after day like that, in a town of just under 400 people, over half the town was doing this. And nobody had a fucking clue.
Yeah.
So that's how I can, I can visualize.
You kept it non-violent, which the worst thing in drug business is violence. The worst thing.
Absolutely.
If I had violence, I wouldn't have got out. I was a non-violent first offender.
And our friend George will be the first one to tell you that the cocaine business is done with a gun, the marijuana business is done with a handshake.
Yeah, I don't like violence.
No, we're family and generational. In the 11 years I did this, George, and I grew up in this industry, I'll go offshore unloading boats that had, as much as 400,000 pounds on them. We go night after night after night just to unload these fucking things. In 11 years, I saw a gun one fucking time. And then people always ask me, weren't you afraid? Weren't you, scared of this shit? And I'm like, what? Turn off the Miami Vice and the fucking bullshit, because there's not to say that there weren't some assholes out there that were willing to do this shit because they had all their money invested in this crap. They're not going to fucking lose it. But in our case, we were able to integrate it into a way of life spanning, generations. Right. And nobody had a fucking clue that at any one day of the week, there's 20 tons of shit coming off this little 129-acre island out in the middle of nowhere. That's the advantage we had, And like we were talking when we're on the phone the last time around, was the contrast between your world and my world. Everything, all the mechanics and everything as far as money, and that's all there. But the scenario by which you play that game is totally different, man.
Well,
Right.
when I grew up, the mob didn't know anything about weed. I mean, I was the first guy in Philadelphia to become a big weed guy. They didn't even know about it, what it was. I still smoke today. I smoke every day. I go on stage in front of thousands of people and smoke. As soon as
Hell yeah.
I light up.
Right.
I'm no in this, and especially when you're branding, you can't be a phony. You know that.
Right.
No,
right.
right. Exactly.
At the
You know?
Seattle Hemp Festival, when I came home 3 years in a row, I was the main speaker at the Seattle Hemp Festival, the biggest in the world, 250,000
Awesome.
people.
That's
Third
awesome.
week in August, yeah. So you can't be a phony. Can't
If
be
you're
a
going
phony.
to talk the talk, walk it.
Yeah, can't be a
Right.
phony.
So I know we don't have much time left with you tonight, but I know Jeff actually brought something up earlier when you were on the phone call, and that was the self-help booklet that you wrote and published called The Shot Caller.
Oh yeah, that I wrote so many books. Shit, the Shot Caller was basically how to start a business for $1,000 or less, and then we had different scenarios how you can take $1,000 and go into business. So I'm proud of that. And one of my most proudest classes is Fathers Behind Bars. It's still going in the federal system, where they took estranged fathers from their children, and we reunited them. So I'm very proud of that.
That's very cool. Very cool.
That class is still going on. The Shot Caller is still going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, the whole time you were off, we were going on about your accolade.
I had life no parole. I was dying in there. So what was I going to do? I had to keep mentally busy and physically busy. What was I going to do? What was I going to do?
Well, I want to say that, it's admirable because you literally got fucked. You got screwed by the system, and all you did was try to do good things.
Well, like
admirable.
Early in the show, the hardest case to beat is the frame, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Hardest case to beat is the frame. But my family, my sisters, and especially my mother. I lost my mother 4 years ago. I got to spend some time with her. They walked the streets with their heads up. They went anywhere in New York, Philly. I'd rather be dead than have my mother bend their head in shame.
Yeah, there you go.
Walked with their heads up.
Good for you, man.
I had sons and daughters. It's not about you. It's about once you're in the rack, which they had me in the rack.
Yeah.
I never complained to anybody. I never told my mother one complaint. Never.
Right.
You got to ride with it. Simple as that. You got to ride with it.
Right. Well, it's all an experience such as that you went through and I went through. I didn't do as many years, obviously, because the government had they were sympathetic in the way they handled us as kids. One generation a year before getting a slap on the wrist, basically, and the next generation a year later, their kids are getting life sentences. So there was a bit of a discretion going on in that world. But talking about your period and your time behind bars and and things like that, and making a difference,
like I said,
because people think of criminals, and we were talking about this too, the difference between criminals and outlaws. I mean, there's criminals, and then there's people that deserve to be in prison, and then there's people that absolutely don't deserve to be there.
Oh, I'm no bleeding heart. There's some scums that's definitely should be there.
Fuck yeah.
And I'm the one that created reentry. You know the word reentry?
Yeah.
It created reentry in the Fed system, and then it went into the state system. I created that. Me and a warden.
Yep.
So all those reentry programs, I created them. The skills programs,
right?
All that, but I never took credit. Any federal prisoner or state prisoner doing well thinks they're going to outshine a warden is but a fool. So I made the warden take all the credit. You can't outshine a warden.
Right.
No.
Right. So I know, like I said, I know we don't have much time left. Jeff, do you have any last questions for our amazing guest?
Yeah, actually, something that we haven't talked about yet. You were sentenced to life without parole. Why the fuck are you out?
The last 90 days, it's a movie in itself. I got so good with federal law that I created a case called the Holloway case. John Holloway. It's two-pronged. Actually, you had to be languishing in prison, and you had to have a good prison record. So this guy worked for me. He was one of my helpers in my classroom, John. 22nd offense for carjacking. That's violent. And he had Judge Gleason out of New York, very tough judge. He was the prosecutor for John's second RICO, John Gotti's second RICO. Anyway, I wrote this. He was working for me in the class, cleaning the class, cleaning the chalkboards, making copies for me, keeping one of my classrooms for over 2 years. So he had just lost some frivolous motion, and he's bugging me. Boss, you got to help me. Boss, my mother's sick. I'm in 22 years. So I figure, what am I going to do? So I know he was dead in the water as far as appeals. I wrote a letter. I'm a very good writer. I wrote a one-page letter to Judge Gleason. I just told him the scenario I just told you guys. He's a good guy. He's been helping me. He's bugging me, this and that. So I write this letter. I told John, I even gave him the stamp. I said, mail this to your judge. I know the protocol, all federal judges have 2 to 3 clerks. One of their main protocol, they never give a judge a letter.
No.
They never give a judge a letter. Anyway, about 6
When you
weeks.
submit a brief, it doesn't go to the judge. It goes to the clerk.
Right in my classroom. He said, what's this? Anyway, you got a docket number. You can't get into court unless you have a docket number. And I got him into court. Long story short, I got him out. The prosecutor's office would not address. They wanted it under seal. They didn't want no president on it. So I got him out. Matter of fact, I walked him to R&D. You don't leave a prison unless you go through R&D.
Right.
Departure and receiving. And I looked him in the eye. I said, let me tell you something, John. I just did a miracle for you. If I hear you coming back to jail on any sort of crime, you better go live under the jail. I don't give a fuck if it's state or fed. And he looked in my eyes. So anyway, make a long story short, I'm laying in my bunk about 2 months later. I said, all right, it's time. So I invoked the story I just told you. I wrote a one-page letter to my judge in the Third Circuit in Philly. The letter was sitting on my little tin desk to myself for about 10 days. It had coffee stains on it. It had gravy. So I finally mailed the letter. And sure enough, I'm in the yard. I get Martorano, report to the lieutenant's office. I go to the lieutenant's. What's up? Your lawyer's been calling here. 3 different lawyers. I said, what do they want? He said, here's the phone. And my lawyer got on the phone. She said, you got a docket number. You got an in-chambers hearing with a docket number on the Holloway. And that's how, and it took from when I got the docket number, it took me 10 months because the judge wanted the government to come up with how to release him. They couldn't figure out a way. So we had this, my lawyer was international lawyer, Theodore Simon. He was the guy that got that Amanda Knox out of Italy. The girl that supposedly cut the room.
Right.
Beat that case. Anyway, so the months go by, and my lawyer, they called him into a hearing in the U.S. Attorney's office, and my lawyer says, it's the first time in my life that my mouth went a gap. Couldn't believe who was sitting in there. They had the FBI from Washington, the FBI from Philly, the DEA from Philly, Homicide Division from Philly, these 6, 7 guys. And they tell my lawyer, we want to release him, but we need something more. My lawyer says, there's no prisoner in the world that has a stellar record. What more can this guy do? So my lawyer tells me this. But my judge was pressuring the U.S. Attorney's Office, Philly, saying, if you don't come up with something, I'm releasing him on the Holloway. They did not want Holloway in the law books because it would open up a floodgate. How many thousands of prisoners been languishing and had a good prison record? Tens of thousands.
Right.
Said would not address it in the law books. So I don't know.
You're giving them a precedent to cite now if you do that.
I don't know what to do. I'm trying to figure it all out. Just so happens it was a lieutenant that I knew for 20 years. He was a guard, now he's a lieutenant. He had morning watch. Tim, you know Morning Watches, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's from 12 to 8. Now he
Yeah.
has whoever has lieutenant has morning watch. He has complete autonomy over the jail. He's like the warden. And he had, what does he have in front of him? The computer. So there was 2 gangs on a compound, 2 Spanish gangs. They were ready to go to war. Just so happens this bench I was working out early in the morning, it was one of them aluminum steel type benches, which the steel's easy to cut. These inmates know how to cut steel. So I'm noticing chunks in this bench here missing. I said, somebody's making knives. So I investigated. It was a junkie. People don't understand. This guys in prison have drug habits, $100 to $200 a day drug habits. So this guy,
yeah, man. You want anything you want. It's available.
they're making knives for these 2 gangs. I said, when they find out you're selling to the 2 gangs, you're going to be killed. You know that. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give me a good price. I'll buy all the knives. It was a puller case full of knives. So I buy the knives. I hid them. And I sent word to the lieutenant, call me out. So he calls me out about 4 a.m. I go across the compound. I said, listen, I got a bag full of knives. I ain't going to give you a name. I need a report. You can write me a report. They won't let me out. I need something more. So he writes this great report. He told the truth. If Martorano didn't bring us these knives, we'd be dead cops and be dead inmates. And they did go to war, which made his report authentic. They did go to war. Matter of fact, they went to war twice. And I was locked in for like 6 weeks. But they wasn't stabbing each other. They were hitting each other with locks and belts, you know. So now when the report goes to my lawyer brings it to the prosecutor, and my prosecutor calls all these agencies again. They say, okay, that's enough. So I had to buy my bag and pull a case full of knives. And that's how I got out. Well, the story goes further. Now I finally get out. And I go to the probation department in Philly. No, I was in Florida for 3 months, and my mother got hurt. She was not feeling well. And that's what I told my lawyer, transfer her to Philly. So I go to Philly, and you got to go to see the parole guy. You got to see him within 24 hours. And after that, my lawyer says, come on, we're going somewhere. I said, where are we going? He said, we're going around the corner. We go to this other big building. And the same thing, you know, like you go to the airport, you got to go through a metal detector, take off your watch and belt and all that jazz. I said, what are you doing? He says, I got a surprise. Guess where he takes me? The U.S. Attorney's office. I'm walking to the U.S. Attorney's office. This long hall, doors are open up, people coming out and shaking my hand. A guy like my background has never before done that in the history of America. I ain't no rat. So they take me in a conference room. Who's in a conference room? The head of the U.S. Attorney's office in Philly and my prosecutor that's been fighting me for 7 years. She's in the film. You've seen her in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea Faulkner, she's in the film. And she's in there. I'm in a room a short time. And she says, I have to tell you this. She actually, tears were coming down her eyes. She says, I fought you for 7 years. You put 3 different motions in. I had no control over your case. I said, well, you're the prosecutor. Who had more control? An FBI agent, this dog rotten scumbag named Fritzy. His job, this dog stood 12 years over retirement. You work for the government, you got to go in 20 years. This guy stood almost as long as I did, 32 years. You know what his job was? To make sure I died in prison. He made a deal with my prosecutor. They were buddies. And there was a rat in Philly that we didn't know he was a rat. And he was telling my prosecutor, as soon as Georgie, they call me Georgie in Philly, as soon as Georgie gets out, he's killing you. So he had this guy believing that. So how was I going to win?
Right.
And she told me that right in the U.S. Attorney. We're friends today. She's in the film.
Yeah.
So I have so many evilness stacked against me. I'll tell you, it's a miracle I'm doing this show.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to get out and do this show.
Yeah,
you've got one hell of a story. So, like, we're way over time, which is, I'm okay with that, but Jeff's probably starving. My last question is, do you know how to box?
Fight?
Box.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, the reason I brought that up is because we did.
What are you going to try to kick his ass or what?
No. There's the reason I brought it up. We only touched a little bit about George's background, George's father, what George's father was involved with. But George's father was the lightweight boxing champion in 1944.
Yeah. Back days, all the young guys from Italian neighborhoods, an awful lot of them went into boxing. And then he went into the army. And then he came home and he got I told you the story when I was 2 years old.
Yep.
Right.
Well, he was only 19 when that happened. And he went and hunted those guys down. He wasn't a gangster then. He just was a young guy trying to support his wife and kids. He hunted those 3 guys down and beat them so bad, found each one of them and put them in the hospital. So that's how he started becoming Long John. That's how he started getting this reputation.
Right. But I just wanted to bring that up, that he was actually the lightweight boxing champion in 1944. I mean, so with all that, folks, like we said before, if you want to know more about George's story, the documentary, all that is in the show notes up above or down below. And I think we're going to end up booking George again, maybe next year.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to.
Yeah, we're going to have to, because his story.
We're going to have to.
It's like
Jesus
Tim's
Christ.
story.
He just killed my earbuds. It's been 2 hours. I had to redo and plug back in.
And before I close, Ben, give Tim my number. I want to talk to Tim about my brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's why don't you guys connect George and I through an email, and we'll hook up with our personal information. And then George, I'd love to talk to you on the phone, man, and have a conversation with you for sure.
Yeah, just text me his number and we go from there after the hire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd like to see you at Steel City is what I'd like to see.
Yeah, because
you guys
now, when do you go back to Philly?
I go on the 16th.
All right. So yeah, I'll reach out to
I got to do another big show here last week of January. If you guys want to fly out, I'm doing a show at the Mob Museum in front of a big audience. So last week of January. I don't have an exact date. It's the last week of January.
Yeah, because he's in Philly, and we're doing Monroeville, Pennsylvania in March, or end of February.
Well, I got a stage show I'm releasing February 22nd in Philly. It's my first stage show.
Okay. Did he change the dates?
Well, not officially yet. He's made quasi notions of it, but it's still May 25th for now, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Okay. But I think George would be an amazing guest.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
And even bring his brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
that in particularly is what I wanted to speak to you about, George, is your branding.
Well, my brand, I waited to move it around. First, I wanted it to be successful. We're very successful in Jersey. We're over 100 dispensaries and growing. It's probably the biggest seller in Jersey, the Grow Father. And I wanted to make so I can truthfully go to other states and say my brand's a winner. That's why I'm in Mexico, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and hopefully Nevada. I wanted to be truthful to say my brand's a winner, which proved to be a winner. It's the coolest name in the country.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt. So you know what, George, I appreciate you, man. And I can empathize with a lot of what you've gone through, and then some obviously, of course, I can't, because our two genres were so distant from one another, if you will, for the lack of a better way of putting it. But it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, man. And I look forward to speaking with you.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And Ben, Jeff, you two guys are always amazing, man. It was always a great time being with you guys, and kind of keeping up with your shit. Your new stuff you got going out with your comic. That's I'll let you guys go off into that. But I look forward to seeing more of it, man. And I look forward to seeing you again for sure.
All right, guys.
Excellent.
Pleasure. Have a nice holiday. And like I said, Tim, hook up.
Absolutely, George.
Yep.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right.
Same to you.
Don't eat no Hungarian buzzard.
If it tastes like bubblegum, I'll spit it on the floor, George. I guarantee you.
All right. Guys, take care.
You too. Thank you.
Take care, George.
All right. Bye-bye.
Wow. I gotta pee.
Tim left too. I haven't even closed the show yet.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
All right, real quick.
Yeah,
Go
great
ahead.
show.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of blown away. You got to watch this. Check the show notes. Watch this documentary. Unfucking believable. And it's not just about him. It's about his family, his upbringing, where he came from that he really never got involved with, but was actually a turning point in why he spent so much time in jail. You got to watch the documentary for that. You know, I'm going to watch it again and probably again because there's too much information. As far as us, just go to stilltoken.com. You'll find out everything we need to know. Token with the Dead. If you haven't seen the animation, go check it out. It's pinned to the top of the Facebook page. It's all over Instagram. It's fucking everywhere. And I also made another post today because we can't forget the novel.
Right.
It's a great Christmas gift. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Toking with the Dead. Check it out. Buy it. Read it. Watch the animation. Stop fucking around.
Wow. Stop fucking around, he said, folks. So
that's because I got to pee and I'm hungry.
I got to pee too, but that's okay. You know, real quick, just want to thank Tim McBride, a.k.a. the Saltwater Cowboy, for coming out and hanging with us tonight, telling a little bit of his story. And, you know, most of all, George Martorano for coming on and telling some of his story. But definitely, like Jeff said, check out the documentary from Breaking Glass Pictures. I mean, they did an amazing job. His producer, Jill, she just killed it. And, yeah, I mean, that's all I can really say about that. Have a safe Thanksgiving to all our veterans and first responders. We want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can come up here and do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We are out of here.
Peace.